Can you tell me a little bit more about your work?
Well, FSG is a nonprofit global strategy firm, and we work with anyone who wants to have more social impact governments, corporations, foundations, and nonprofits. And I'm based in Washington, D.C., which is our newest office.
Great. What's the most salient piece of advice you have to give your clients?
Well, a lot of it comes out of the research that we did for a new book that we just launched a couple months ago called Do More Than Give, The 6 Practices of Donors Who Change the World. And my co-authors, Mark Kramer and John Caney, and I had the opportunity to study a whole range of very high-impact donors, foundations, and individuals who had been able to get really extraordinary results through their philanthropic work. And we studied some of the largest foundations like the Gates Foundation, but also a number of family foundations, smaller community foundations that might not have billions to give away, but have gotten extraordinary impact. And the way they do it is that they go beyond grant making to actually participate in catalyzing change.
Wonderful. So what brings you to the conference?
Well, I was speaking on a panel this afternoon about alternative strategies for scaling impact, and this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. My first book, Forces for Good, The 6 Practices of High-Impact Nonprofits, really looked at 12 very successful national organizations that had gone from zero to great in a matter of decades. And the big aha from our research was that it wasn't about scaling the organization per se. I mean, some of them, like Teach for America or City Year, had grown to many sites. But some of them only had one site, and whether they had a very large budget like Habitat for Humanity International or a relatively small budget like the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities in Washington, D.C., or Self-Help, the credit union, they all were able to get really high impact. And the way great nonprofits are able to achieve big outcomes and get real results is they focus just as much on leveraging government, trying to change policy, harnessing market forces by working through the business sector, really working through all sectors of society to try and get system-wide changes, as opposed to just simply shoring up their organizations, trying to replicate to other cities or layer in more programs and services. While it's important that nonprofits have robust offerings, that's not the only or even the fastest path to big impact.
Great. And have you found anything at the conference that you feel like you're going to be able to take back to your organization? Either in terms of contacts you've made or speakers that you've heard or just being able to be in a collaborative forum?
Yeah, well, I think this last panel where Martin Eakes from Self-Help spoke was very powerful for me. I was on the panel, but in listening to him and also listening to Dorothy Stoneman at the lunch and some of the other speakers, I was reminded of just how hard it is, the work that folks at this conference are trying to do. I mean, they're trying to solve some of the world's most complex systemic problems, whether it's dealing with the predatory lending industry and trying to protect low-income borrowers like Self-Help is doing, or in Youth Build's case, taking kids who are at risk of all the things that young people in low-income communities are at risk for: teen pregnancy, high school dropout, becoming poor, becoming homeless. And I think it was reinforcing that it is so hard and it takes such a determination and really a fighting attitude. Lance Lindblom, the head of the outgoing CEO of the Nathan Cummings Foundation, has this great quote in our book, Do More Than Give. He talks about how, in most of the cases when you're trying to create change, there is an interest in protecting the status quo. I mean, that's what Martin Eakes bumped up against when he was trying to take on the predatory lending industry. For-profit companies make billions of dollars collectively taking from the poor and taking advantage of vulnerable borrowers, and they don't want to give that up. And so, it's not just about having a positive vision of how you want to change the world. Often you've got, in most of the cases, you've also got to create a change that's going to take away something that an entity like a corporation might value. And that's what makes it so hard, and that's what makes it so much more important that we find real effective ways to support entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs that are trying to affect big systemic change. They need the resources. That's what this conference is all about. How do you improve the capital markets and raise more support so that they can achieve those big wins?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was a pleasure.